Welcome to our church. We love our neighbors.
Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs, located in the heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs Historic District and known as the home of the Innes paintings. We are a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. I'm Reverend Kristina Spaude, the minister here at UUCTS. Thank you for joining us. I hope you find meaning in today's service, and I invite you to drop in for a more personal visit to one of our coffee hours on Sundays in the morning at 11 o'clock on Zoom. If you are new to the area or just learning about Unitarian Universalism, we'd love to meet you in one of our newcomer discussions, which are held on the second Sundays of every month at 12:15 p.m. Please refer to our website for information on how to connect with us on Zoom. Our service associate will now begin today's service. Let us enter this sacred time with open hearts and open minds.
Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Diane Reif, and I'm privileged to be your service associate today. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to the guests who are with us. We invite you to check out our website, uutarpon.org, to learn more about who we are and let us know who you are. We hope you will join our coffee hour on Zoom every Sunday at 11 in the morning. Our website has the Zoom sign-in information. We are privileged today to have as our guest speaker, Reverend Marni. Marni is a longtime good friend of the church. She is a retired UU minister, but still willing to share her time, for which we are very grateful. We welcome all thoughtful people to journey through life's mystery with us. Whatever your religious background or current belief, whatever your race, ethnicity, sexual or gender identity, lifestyle, or circumstance. Let me take a moment to remind members and guests who share our principles and vision that this is the month when we seek your pledges and monetary support for the months to come. It costs money to run a church, and we are still paying off the debt incurred as a result of this devastating sinkhole and the necessary repairs to the church building. Please support us in our efforts. Here find a house of welcoming. Here find vision and hope. Here be received as you truly are, unique and beautiful, your journey acknowledged, your love honored. Let us rejoice together. And now, as is our tradition, let us light the chalice with our wonderful music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, plays for us. May our chalice flame light for us a path of joy and health. Let us always remember our goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
Good morning. My story this morning is by Unitarian minister Christopher Weiss, and it's called Rivers. Once upon a time, there were two rivers flowing side by side. Both rivers liked to argue about who was the best. The water in my river is better than the water in your river, said one. No, the water in my river is better than the water in your river, said the other. The two rivers would flow along all day, arguing about which river was the best. And both were quite sure that they were, in fact, the greatest. Doesn't my water make a joyful sound as it runs over the smooth, polished pebbles on my bottom? And look at the way the sun reflects off the ripples and eddies that form around the granite boulders at my edge. These things are so beautiful. Surely I am the best river, said the first. The other river replied, ah, but look at all the fish that swim in my clear, cool water. And have you heard the frogs singing at night? And I have to tell you, to get the sound of the frogs, I went online and I discovered there are dozens and dozens of different sounds that frogs make. I didn't know that. Anyway, they live in the reeds. That's not the river that's talking, that was me. They live in the reeds and lilies that grow at my banks. I am home to so many wonderful creatures. Surely I must be the very best river. The two continued to argue until one day, something strange and unexpected happened. The rivers rounded a bend, slid down a small falls, and suddenly saw that they were flowing towards something much bigger and greater than themselves. Up ahead were big crashing waves and water everywhere for as far as they could see. They continued to rush faster and faster until the water from both rivers churned together into the vast and enormous ocean. And then a sound came from the sky. It came from a cloud that chuckled for a moment and then said, now you see how foolish you have been arguing about who is the best. There is no highest or least or lowest. There is no greatest, no least. All things are one, and all are joined together like rivers in the sea. And that is the story of rivers flowing into the sea. We are indeed like the rivers and the sea, all one. This is a poem by Marge Piercy called The Low Road. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up. They can bust you. They can break your fingers. They can burn your brain with electricity, blur you with drugs till you can't walk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight, you can refuse, you can take what revenge you can, but they roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again and they said no. It starts when you say we and you know who you mean. And each day you mean one more.
Source of It's time for the offering for the work and the welfare of this church. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click on the donate button. Or please send your checks to 57 Reed Street. The entire address is right there on your screen. And thank you. There is a place for the sadness. Hold on to love. There is a season of gladness. Hold on to love. When pain and confusion seem endless. Hold on to love. We cultivate healing through kindness. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love. When terror and fear overwhelm us, hold on to love. Courage and faith will sustain us. Hold on to love. When violence seems to destroy us, hold on to love. Acts of compassion restore us. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love. When hatred is used to divide us, hold on to love. Wisdom and truth reunite us. Hold on to love. When prejudice poses as freedom, hold on to love. Dignity means all are welcome. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love. Hold on.
So the voting has ended, and we have a new president-elect. For a slim majority, this is cause for jubilation. For the rest, the news creates disappointment, resistance, and fear. There is no question that democracy and decency were on the ballot. But the troubling truth is that over 70 million Americans voted for 4 more years of a continuing assault on both. President-elect Biden has pledged to be a president who will serve not just those who voted for him, but equally those who did not. An almost impossible task, given the chasm between the worldviews of these two different populations. Only time will tell. And while there are many aspects to this daunting bridge building task, I'd like to focus this morning on just one. I believe we need a huge cultural shift from individualism to the common good, what one commentator has referred to not as collectivism, but rather by the term relationalism. In my trusty edition of Webster's, there are 359 definitions that begin with the word self. After the first 5 entries, the progression moves from self-abnegation to self-worship. In a way, it takes us on a journey from self-denial to the worship and idolization of the self. I didn't bother to page through and see if there are any other words with that many entries, but I would be willing to bet that the word self nears the top of the list. And that makes a statement on its own. We are culturally obsessed with the self. Our reigning cultural myth is that self-determination is the way to utopia, that the good life is based primarily on self-direction and identity. Robert Putnam of Bowling Alone has a new book with his co-author titled The Upswing. The book looks at American society from 1870 to the present. The story of the American experiment in the 20th century, the authors write, is one of a long upswing toward increasing solidarity, followed by a steep downturn into increasing individualism. From I to we, and back again to I. And that's where we are now, socially and economically celebrating self-centeredness. And some uniquely American values contribute to promoting this orientation. The first such value is our emphasis on the primacy of the individual. For us, the individual is the most significant element of society. We focus on individual rights, individual property, individual needs. And UU voices have rung loud as strong proponents of this. Emerson and Thoreau celebrated self-reliance and nonconformity. Whitman poetically cried, "I celebrate myself." And second, we have a duty to better ourselves, since ultimately bettering the self is in the best interests of the larger society. And then third, the value rooted in the belief of America's promise, that we are the authors of our fate. There is no limit to what each individual self can accomplish. It is, after all, the American dream. Our hyper-individualism involves feelings, practices, morals that put the self first. That the goal is individual happiness, individual success, self-sufficiency, and self-actualization. Each individual determines their own destiny. And here's the punch. Freedom means being free of restraints. And so hyper-individualism gradually separates people from one another, erodes those connections that are anything other than the ones chosen by an individual. Connection to the we is lost. Responsibility to others and to the common good is lost. The longings of heart and soul for connection and service and care become lost to the desires of the ego. 2 recent examples stand out for me as a result of this fascination with individualism and freedom from restraint. First, and obviously, the COVID pandemic. Despite evidence that masks save lives, we see rampant and destructive behavior from people who believe it's a matter of personal freedom to not wear masks, regardless of how that might affect others. Well, it's a free country. It's my right. No sense of responsibility to the common good. And second, at a time when health care coverage is crucial, the ACA, still under threat as I tape this service, will likely at least have the personal mandate eliminated. Now, while I understand people resisting the idea of having to buy health insurance if they don't want to, what about when the unexpected happens and they need health care? And it will, and they will. When they receive it at no cost to themselves because they won't be turned away, they seem unable to understand that someone pays anyway. And that someone is we and the higher costs for our insurance. The Sunday before the election, the New York Times review section was devoted to all that our country has lost over the last 4 years. In a section titled "The Dream," readers were asked to share when they lost their faith in the American dream. 2 responses were really what stimulated my sermon. From Marshall McDonald in Milwaukee. The American dream died for me when I realized just how many of my fellow Americans valued selfishness over community, power over justice, prejudice over fairness, greed over generosity, demagogy over science. For me, the 2020 pandemic is very real, but also a metaphor. How sick our national soul is. The old dream should pass away. Isn't it time for us to dream new dreams, better dreams that include us all? And then from Bill Stoddard in Montana. The American dream died for me when I realized our allegiance to the myth of rugged individualism has completely overwhelmed our willingness and ability to lift others up. It seems we have decided there is only so much pie available, so we better get what we can without realizing that in buying into a zero-sum game, we have made a bargain that not only limits our own ability to thrive, but prevents others from doing so as well. I found these disturbing. For too long, we have lost sight of what Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. called an inescapable network of mutuality. Our country's cultural ethos and moral core, I believe, must move back to a commitment to the common good and to we the people. In his book, The Common Good, Robert Reif says, quote, "The common good is no longer a fashionable idea. The phrase is rarely uttered today, not even by commencement speakers and politicians." He then goes on to define the common good as consisting of, and again a quote, "our shared values about what we owe one another as citizens who are bound together in the same society." Some of those most fundamental: respect for the rule of law and democratic institutions, toleration of differences, belief in equal rights and opportunity. So how might we, the people, begin to help this need for cultural shift? How might we support it? I think that David Brooks is onto something crucial. He has created an organization through the Aspen Institute called Weave, the Social Fabric Project, expressly designed to focus on cultural change. And he writes on the Weave website, "The Weaver movement is repairing our country's social fabric, which is badly frayed by distrust, division, and exclusion. People are quietly working across America to end loneliness and isolation and weave inclusive communities. Join us in shifting our culture from hyper-individualism that is all about personal success to relationalism that puts relationships at the center of our lives." So here is a movement that is trying to support people who are oriented toward social solidarity more than toward self. Weaving is a way of life and a state of mind. It's not just a set of actions. It's about the spirit of caring that you bring to each interaction with someone else. It's a willingness to be open and loving whether you get anything in return. And it's an understanding that we are all in this together, out beyond our personal selves, reaching both toward others and reaching farther than self. So just imagine with me for a minute. What if we return to helping those in developing nations who have so much less? Those who, for example, are least responsible for climate change, but most affected by it via their increased droughts, disease, rising seas. What if we do that by sharing our technical and financial support? Our seventh principle clearly states our commitment to the interdependent web. We know that our nation is stronger with the presence and contributions of immigrants, and yet many immigrants here among us live in fear. They are not dangerous others, but are a vital part of we. As a matter of justice and human dignity, we know that our economic systems need to work for all of us, not just the wealthiest few, those most vulnerable, those who live in poverty, those who are not paid a living wage. They are part of we. White supremacy has shaped our nation from the beginning. We must now empower those who have been exploited, excluded, and denied justice and freedom, for they are we. The common good, the good for the we, used to be a strong value and commitment in our country. And it might be just the thing that can help us recover and heal. May we be weavers who recommit to the we in our national soul through connection, compassion, and love of each other and our country and our earth. Amid the deep divisions that exist, may we begin a larger conversation that will lead us back to one another for the common good, for the greater good. May it be so, and amen.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice, strive to make us free.
My closing words come from a poem by the Reverend Frederick Streets, a Congregationalist minister. This poem came to me this week. It did come to me. I mean, it landed in my world this week. And I found it so moving that I would like to close and leave it with you. We will laugh again without caution. We will smile again without constraint. We will embrace again without defense. We will speak again without muted sounds. We will again, side by side, look at the stars. Again, we will gather in places and spaces unsoiled by our anxiety and fear. We will freely breathe deeply again. We will dance again with our cheeks close enough to hear our whispering to one another. We will mourn again openly. We will greet each other again closely, without suspicion. Children will hug us again, and we will hug children again. We will invite solitude again. We will imagine again without desperation. We will again feel the joy that hope brings. We will play together again. We will sing together again. We will cheer together again. We will pray together again. We will feel each other's hands and arms again tomorrow. Tomorrow. Again.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I hope that you have found meaning in today's service. Please join our coffee hour any Sunday at 11 o'clock a.m. for friendly conversation. Again, if you are new to the area or to Unitarian Universalism, we'd love to meet you in one of our newcomer discussions, which are held on the second Sundays of every month at 12:15. You can refer to our website for information on how to connect with us on Zoom. We look forward to meeting you.